Today, we're diving into something truly revolutionary. It's happening in India, and it's a plan to create an entire generation of AI natives, starting from the ripe old age of 8. I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you learned about AI not as some specialized college course, but as a basic fundamental skill, right alongside reading, writing, and arithmetic? Well, this isn't some far-off hypothetical. It's the future India is actively building. So let's get into it. Here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the what, the big announcement itself. Then we'll get into the why, the thinking behind starting this with 8-year-olds. After that, we'll explore the how they plan to teach it. And finally, we'll look at the very real challenges they're facing on the road ahead. Okay, let's start with the core of it all. What exactly is this big news coming out of India? This right here is a massive deal. Starting in the 2026-2027 school year, AI and something called computational thinking are going to be mandatory subjects. We're not talking about an optional club here. This is for every single student across the entire country, starting in the 3rd grade. The scale of this is just wow. Now, this move didn't just come out of nowhere. If you look at this timeline, you can see it's been a very deliberate step-by-step process. It started way back in 2019 as just an option for 9th graders. Then it expanded a bit. Right now, middle schoolers are getting a little taste of it with a short module. So this 2026 plan is the grand finale. It's the moment AI goes from being a niche elective to a universal skill for everyone. Which, of course, brings us to the biggest question of all. Why? Why on earth would you start teaching a subject this complex to kids who are so young? And this quote from a top official really gets to the heart of it. The goal here isn't to churn out millions of little coders. It's to treat AI literacy the same way we treat basic science. It's a tool to understand the world around us. They're trying to frame it not as this scary separate tech subject, but as just another part of how we understand modern life. And there's a really strong ethical compass guiding this whole thing. The curriculum is built around this central idea, AI for public good. So the focus isn't just on the nuts and bolts of the tech. It's really about the why. It's about getting kids to think about how they can use these powerful tools responsibly, ethically, and creatively to actually solve real problems in the world. And just so you know, this is the real deal. What you're looking at here is an official government document. It shows that this AI initiative is a core part of India's huge national education policy. This isn't just a side project. It's a top-down, strategic, national priority. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now for the really tricky part, the how. How do you actually teach AI to millions of 3rd graders? Well, they've got a very clear phased rollout plan. By the end of 2025, they want all the teaching materials, the handbooks, the digital tools, everything to be ready to go. Then they're dedicating an entire year to a massive nationwide teacher training blitz. And then, bam, in 2026, it goes live in classrooms everywhere. Now, this is where it gets really smart. Look at how they've designed this to be age appropriate. For the youngest kids in classes 3 to 5, it's not about Python or coding. It's about computational thinking, basically logic and problem solving, taught through things like puzzles and games. Then, in middle school, they move up to hands-on AI projects. It's only once they hit high school that it becomes a formal subject with actual programming, leading to specialized classes later on. It's a very gentle ramp-up. But of course, to teach all these kids, you need teachers who know their stuff. And the number they're looking at is just staggering. The plan requires training over 10 million teachers. Just let that number sink in. 10 million. The sheer scale is almost unimaginable, and it's probably the single biggest piece of this entire puzzle. So how in the world do you train 10 million people? Well, you don't do it alone. The strategy is built on a few key pillars. They're using their existing national teacher training platform, but, and this is crucial, they are leaning heavily on partnerships with big tech. You've got Microsoft stepping up with a program to train 2 million teachers themselves, and companies like Intel and IBM have actually been in this game for years, helping lay the groundwork. Which brings us to our final section. Because as amazing as this vision is, we have to be realistic. The road to making it happen is absolutely full of challenges. And here is challenge number 1, and it's a big one, the digital divide. This chart lays out a pretty stark reality. While more than half of schools in India do have computers, a huge 43% have absolutely none. And for a curriculum that's so dependent on technology, that's a massive hurdle to clear right out of the gate. And this really sums up the tension perfectly, doesn't it? The vision is beautiful, to create a whole new generation of innovators and responsible digital citizens. But the reality is that getting there means tackling these enormous logistical nightmares, closing that digital gap, training all those teachers, and making sure it's all done ethically. And if we dig a little deeper, it's not just about having the hardware, it's about the people. Surveys show that a whopping 85% of teachers feel like they need more training in AI. Then you have the problem of making sure a kid in a rural village has the same opportunity as a kid in a big city. And maybe most importantly, making sure this all leads to real, meaningful learning and doesn't just become another subject students have to pass by checking a box. This quote from an education expert just nails it. The idea, the vision, it's incredibly forward-thinking. But at the end of the day, whether this succeeds or fails is going to come down to one thing: how well they can actually implement it on the ground in millions of classrooms. And so this is the question we're all left with. This is without a doubt one of the boldest educational experiments happening anywhere on the planet right now. It has the potential to create a generation that is uniquely equipped for our AI-powered future. But it also carries this huge risk of making the gap between the haves and the have-nots even wider. The world is definitely going to be watching to see how this incredible story unfolds.